This week I'm joined all the way from Australia, Pablo Miller. Pablo is a runner and has achieved quite a significant journey in terms of his fitness. Morning, Pablo, or should I say afternoon, Pablo?
G'day, John. How are you? Thanks.
Good, thank you. Do you want to just describe your fitness journey and your background?
Yeah, sure. So I began running in when COVID began, when the lockdowns first began here in Australia and right around the world in about March. And I've been on a running journey since then. I decided to start running 5K a day, basically thinking, the gyms were going to be shut for 2-3 weeks. The world will all be back to normal in a month tops, right? Well, that didn't quite happen. So I ended up just keep on running, and I'm just slowly morphing into Forrest Gump with the long hair and everything. You just got to keep on running. So yeah, I'm nearing up to about getting close to 500 days now, consecutive of 5K a day.
Fantastic. So your background is you're a radio presenter in Australia, and prior to lockdown, you've come quite a long way in terms of your fitness. So do you want to just describe kind of your background and family and what inspired you to run 5K a day?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm a breakfast radio announcer here in WA. Work for Triple M, hence the branding in the background. So I work mornings, which is great. Start quite early, usually in the studio about 4 a.m. But the benefit of that is obviously I get to knock off quite early, and then obviously get lots of time with the family. So I got a wife and a lovely daughter who's just turned 5 the other month. So I got lots of opportunities to spend the afternoons with them, and then obviously lots of time for running as well. But previous to lockdown, I've always played basketball. I love basketball. It's like one of my true passions. I don't watch any other sport other than basketball, so I'm a little bit obsessed. So I obviously had a baseline fitness, but during my basketball sort of amateur playing career, I've done my ACL, I've done my meniscus, so I've had a few injuries, fair to say, along the way. And then going to university, discovered beer and cheese and put on a few kilograms. And then once you have a family, life gets pretty busy, having a young family, and we had a couple of businesses as well on the side. So I just never had time for fitness in the end. Suddenly, I was staring down the barrel of, mid-30s, pretty overweight, pretty unhappy with my body, and realizing that I really needed to make a change. So, COVID just gave me that spark to sort of get off my ass and do something. And because we had a lot of extra spare time due to COVID, like everyone was working from home, I was basically one of the few people that were coming into the studio. So the office was free all the time. I just found that it was a really nice way to sort of get out and sort of end the day when you couldn't go to the gym. So, I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I came, to running. I'd never pick up the shoes and go for a run at all. It just wasn't something I did. I'd only ever do it if we were playing basketball. But when I first began the 5Ks, I was really struggling. I was doing it in 33 minutes and struggling to get through it, to be honest. And just the other weekend I did a PB and I finally cracked into that 21-minute mark. So, it's been a big progression over the last, 450, 500 days.
What do your family think of your achievement in terms of running 5K a day?
Nuts. No. Look, my wife, she knows what I'm like. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. And, I've given up alcohol in the last 2 years. This year, I haven't had any coffee. And every year I sort of do a crazy New Year's resolution. Like I've gone without chocolate, gone without lollies, gone without soft drink and Coca-Cola and those kind of things for a year, gone without takeout for a year. So when I commit to something, I always do it. And the benefit, I think, of being on radio as well, because I started talking about this 5K a day, thinking I was doing it for the month. Once you get it out there, the listeners start getting involved and they go, you can't stop now. You've got to keep going. So, yeah, I'm kind of stuck with it, but now I love it, so it's fine.
That's the great thing about social media. Once you commit to something, you can't really go back to it, can you? Really, it's a bit like committing to starting a podcast and then realizing how much work that is involved. What just in terms of your background? So you used to own a cafe, didn't you? Or a couple of cafes in the local area.
Yeah.
And your prior to what was the inspiration? What was the thing that changed your attitude towards fitness and wanting to improve your fitness and your lifestyle?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were working kind of crazy hours there with my wife and I. We had some business owners as well in one of the cafes, and then the second one we only recently closed. It was just before COVID hit that we shut that final cafe that we'd had for 5 years, and it was just
Good timing.
yeah, perfect timing. Yeah, it was kind of ironic, how it all unfolded, but we just it wasn't a great financial decision to obviously shut a business only 5 years in, but just mental health wise, like it just had to be done. As far as weren't spending any time together as a family, weren't connecting with each other. It was just kind of like two passing ships in the middle of the hallway, never getting a chance to see each other. And I'm obviously working super early in the morning as well, so there's no time for family time in the morning. And just health and fitness was like the bottom rung as far as my priority list. And now it's like one of the top things as far as my priorities. Fitness was always something that if I could sneak it in to that day, it was a win, right? If I got it in, yeah, well done, you did a bit of fitness. Whereas now it's like, no, you're going to do something every day. And it's one of the top, key things that I need to do to make myself feel like, I've had a really productive day.
You can see from social media that lots of people, obviously faced with the kind of reality of the health pandemic, changed their fitness or inspired themselves to getting fitter, to try to make themselves place themselves in a better position to fight obviously what may happen if you were to catch COVID. Do you think that had an influence on your attitude towards fitness?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I was, mid-30s, pretty overweight. So for anyone that knows the kilogram system and not on that, lunacy of the stone system that you guys run over there in the UK, I was 116 kilos, which is pretty big, right? And I'd lost about 20 odd or like 18 odd, and now I've lost like another sort of 8 kilos or so. And that was yeah. I was severely overweight. So obviously, if I had caught COVID, those things kind of go hand in hand. So that would have been, a miserable experience. So I knew that getting on top of my weight and just fitness overall would definitely be a benefit with, what, the whole world's been going through.
Yeah, I've had a similar journey to you. I back in 2017, I was 24 stone, 140 something kilos. So I was massively overweight, and I've found that, and I've been yo-yoing my weight for years. So losing weight and then putting it back on again. Finding something that commits you to fitness and commits you to maintaining a fitness lifestyle, I think is important. Do you think that as well? And just in terms of having that harness, that 5K a day gave you a reason and gave you a why. Do you find that important?
Absolutely. I mean, it's only slowly sort of developed. It was, I think if I had said at the start, you're going to run 5K every day for the next 500 days, I wouldn't have done it, right? It just sounds too unachievable.
Yeah.
It just sounds ridiculous. And I would have got 30 days in and probably quit. But it kind of naturally evolved to this thing where it became achievable. And then once you start doing it, you realize, well, I can do it. And the excuses to not do it just aren't good enough, right? Like we've all got half an hour spare in the day. You actually feel awesome after you go for a run. You don't feel terrible. So what would be the reason not to do it? Like there's just no valid reason not to do a run anymore. And that's why people ask me now, like, do you think you're going to stop? And it's like, well, give me a good reason why, because I can't think of any.
What helped you to stay motivated? There must have been times during those 500 days where you just didn't want to do it. And what helped you to stay motivated to do it?
Like, honestly, John, to be honest, there really hasn't been any days where I haven't wanted to do it. It's been a little bit tricky on a couple of days where we've gone traveling. So WA is a massive state, right? Massive. So where I live compared to, there's another town that we were going on holidays. It's an 18-hour drive. Okay. So the first day we did a 12-hour drive, and then obviously I got to fit a run in that day. That day I didn't really want to do a run, right? Been sitting for 12 hours with a 5-year-old singing My Little Pony song. So that day definitely wasn't one of my favourite to go out for a run. But then at the same time, it is quite good. You've been sitting down for 12 hours, so you kind of feel nice at the end of it. So there were 2 days I had a bit of a headache or whatnot, but I've been incredibly lucky that I haven't been sick or anything. And knock on wood, I haven't been injured either. So other than those driving days, it's been pretty fun. It's been fun.
I think you would have been forgiven to not run that day, but that's amazing that you've maintained it. And do you think it'll end?
No, as I said, like unless a horrible injury or something like that happens, or if I fly to the UK, and that's a 24-hour direct flight from Perth here in WA, unless they allow me to go up and down the aisle. I don't think it'll end, but I'm only 37, so who knows what happens as they approach the 40s and the mid 50s.
So what have you done to avoid injury? Because I mean, 5K a day doesn't sound like a lot, but actually, running that that distance every single day, and you don't just run 5K as well. I think it's important just to say you also do longer distances. It's just a minimum of 5K a day.
Minimum of 5. So I mean I do think about it as far as the week's concerned. So we have park run like you guys do down here in Australia. So I always do park run on a Saturday, and that's kind of like my personal best. That's where I want to go as hard as I can, right? Sunday is the long run, so I'd usually do a fairly long run that day, like 10 to 12 kilometers. And I just did a half marathon the other weekend for the first time, and then on like a Wednesday, I'll try to do a fairly fast run, but then the others are fairly slow. Like I'm talking like 27, 28-minute run, like just very chilled. So I'll do like 2 hard ones and then 1 long run, and then I'll do like three fairly like cruisy runs just for the enjoyment of it. A lot of stretching, obviously, trying to get better with nutrition, but that's like that's the hard one. And I've got one of those massage guns, which if you don't have one, invest in a massage gun. It is the absolute lifesaver. You've just got to work on your you're convincing to get your partner to use it on you, because it feels so much better when someone else does it rather than yourself.
And is there like a routine that you have for stretching and do you do strength and conditioning work as well as running?
I have been getting back into the gym like the last couple of months, but I actually had this is the old man creeping in. I got tennis elbow, so I haven't been able to do much gym stuff for the last 6 months or so. But do specific stretches every single day, and then the massage gun every single day, especially on the back of my Achilles. They get quite tight, and I find that really, really helps with the Achilles, doing either side of the back of the ankles and the Achilles. It makes a huge difference.
So are there any for those that are thinking about starting running? I mean, we've got a few things. I think you probably have them in Australia as well, like Couch to 5K, which seems to be a really great concept of getting people slowly into running and gradually building up. But do you have any tips for anyone that's thinking about running for the first time, perhaps hasn't done running before or hasn't kind of entered into that kind of fitness, that kind of cardio fitness? Have you got any tips for them in terms of things that you've learned in your journey?
So I'm a really uneducated runner, as far as like I didn't really look into anything when I began. But I guess the main thing is buy a good pair of shoes. I've found these Saucony is the brand that I always use. It's like running on clouds. And I remember when I looked up the research, it was like I typed in something like "good pair of shoes for a fat dad beginning to run" or something like that, and they were top of the list. And they are incredible. So I think I'm on my 5th pair of the same shoes. So I guess if you find the shoes that you like, I definitely stick with them. But I reckon, honestly, just don't overthink it. Like, I think we can get a little bit caught up overthinking all of it. And I know nutrition, it's all important, right, when you're doing those huge runs like a marathon and a half marathon things. But just grab your pair of shoes and head out the door. I think, getting out the door is the biggest hurdle out of everyone. And I love the challenge if it's like it's all in your head, right? Because running isn't that hard, I don't think. Unless you're really overweight or you're really beginning at a low level of fitness. It's not that hard. We can all run, unless you're injured or impaired or something. So just get out there and have a crack and just try to do that little bit better each day. I started terribly slow. It was pretty embarrassing, and it's just that repetition of just trying to be that little bit better every single day.
I think I'm the worst when it comes to kind of procrastinating about running, and I put it off until I know that I haven't got any more time to put it off. It is hard. I think you're absolutely right in terms of kind of just getting outside, and even if you start off with a jog and just kind of say to yourself you're going to do a shorter distance and kind of gradually build up to it. I found that works. That works really well.
And I will say as well, I forgot to mention this. Like, so for the start, like we actually have a treadmill in the house. So I think maybe the first 50 days or so, I did mostly treadmill for the first probably 50 odd days because, and the only reason I did that is because everyone kept telling me I was going to get shin splints, and I got really stressed about it. Like, really stressed. I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll do treadmill because it's less impact and everything. And now like I'm outside most of the time, but I was really stressed about getting shin splints at the beginning. Probably starting on a treadmill is probably not a bad way, just to sort of measure your body, and then you can sort of see exactly how fast you're going. Because I didn't get a running watch until I'd done the first year of 5Ks. I kept saying to myself, I'm not really a runner, right? Not really a runner. And then my wife said, buy a bloody watch. You love it.
Yeah, I think actually probably it's better not to have a watch. I find that. I mean, I've started running and not looking at the watch at all. Just I have it on, but I won't look at the watch because I think sometimes that has an impact on kind of the mental side of running. I just run. I honestly now just run. I don't concern myself with pace unless I've got instructions to do so.
They're like an annoying social media notification. You just have to look.
Yeah,
check
I agree. Totally agree. I think social media, Strava, and things like that also have an impact on kind of. I mean, your attitude towards running, I think, is quite refreshing in terms of just go out and do it and don't overthink it. And I think that's a really, really useful tip for people because we all, I certainly overthink things, and I mean, it's a great tip for people just to, who are starting their journey. Just don't overthink it and just go and do it. But everyone is different, right? So
for sure.
you mentioned about shin splints. I can't count the number of times I've been told about things I'm going to experience or things that are going to happen to me as a result of doing things. And we're all different. We've all got different physiology, and that makes us all unique. And our body's ability to withstand that is unique. You obviously have some characteristics in your physiology that mean that you can you have got the aerobic fitness, and you've also got the physiological kind of adaptations during those runs to be able to handle that load over many weeks.
Yeah. And I think also, like, I've been trying to experiment with some sprint training as well, once a week, and also those longer runs. So I think I'm trying not to just do 5K at the same pace every single day, because I think your body needs that adaptation as well to try different things.
But running sub 20 is your goal now. I read on Instagram.
Yeah, that's my goal, and I really want to achieve a marathon as well. So it was refreshing to get the half marathon done, but kind of scary to think I've got to do that.
Oh, you did that last week?
Yeah, so I did a half marathon last week. Did it in about an hour 55. Which I was fairly happy with.
That's good.
I didn't stop. That was the main thing. I didn't want to stop.
Really good.
And yeah, I wanted to do it under 2 hours, but I kind of had no idea how. Like, I'd never run over 16 kilometers, so I kind of didn't know if I'd make it. And thankfully, I did. But it's kind of a little bit nerve-wracking to think you've got to do that twice.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer the 5K or do you prefer the longer distances?
I think probably 15K is the sweet spot. Like, I do love the 5K just because I know I can really push myself as far as time-wise, and that is quite enjoyable, trying to beat your time. Whereas with the longer Ks, it's a lot more of an endurance, isn't it? And finding your pace, and then it's a real mental challenge as far as just getting it through. Like, we ran from my town to the coast, and it was just under 21.1K. So the last 500 meters was up and down on the foreshore, and that was the longest 500 I reckon I've done in the last year and a half. Just looking at the watch, going, come on, please get to 21.1. So yeah, it's definitely a mind game doing those bigger distances, but the runner's high after, it's incredible.
It's interesting. It is interesting how it plays with your mind. I mean, a 5K, I love 5Ks because it's just you go out half an hour and then you're finished. But actually, once you're out, sometimes I've got to the end of the 5K and thought, actually, I'd like to go on, continue. And your body is different every single day. I've always found personally that on days that I don't want to run, I usually have a really good run. And on the days that I really want to run, it's usually, for some reason, my mind seems to play with me in that way.
It's funny, isn't it? So that when I did my personal best and got the other week, I woke up literally 10 minutes before the parkrun was about to begin, panicked, like, oh my God, I've slept in, because I usually wake up every day super early, so I never have to set an alarm. Panicked, rushed, had a quick drink of water, ran down. And the whole way there, I was like, you just, when you're in that rush mode, you feel horrible, right? Yeah. And hadn't had a shower or anything. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a terrible run. Just like, it's going to be the worst run possible. And I kept thinking to myself, oh, I'll just get it done. It's not, I'm not going to go for anything. And then I started. It ends up being the best run I've done. It's crazy.
It is. I think it's, as I said, it's always the way. It always seems to be the way. The days that you don't try, or the days that you don't think you're going to do well, it always seem to be the opposite, complete opposite. Yeah. It's unique in that way. It's good that your park run's open. We've had problems in this country, and we still haven't got park runs open. They've just delayed it again as a result of us not lifting restrictions. I guess Australia have got their game together in terms of COVID.
Yeah, it's been very in my part of the world, so West Australia has basically been not affected by COVID, right? So it feels quite a bit surreal speaking to other people that are going through the experience, because I haven't had to wear a mask at all through this whole thing, right? So it's a weird experience to go through, because we feel like we kind of haven't quite experienced it to the depth that other people have, and there are other states in Australia that have. But it's been a very different experience for us here in Australia.
Yeah, and you've locked down your states as well, haven't you? So you've stopped people from coming into the state, and the country itself has stopped people coming into the country.
My parents, I haven't seen them for nearly 2 years now, because
wow.
They opened up the borders and then they shut them again just as they're about to jump on a plane. So that is the big downside, being separated by family.
So just want to talk about the charity that you're running for. So you started off doing the 5K a day with no real reason apart from just
Yeah.
going to do 5K a day. And everyone kept asking you, didn't they, that why you were doing it. So you felt you ought to have some type of why to explain. So you're running for a charity. Do you want to just kind of talk about that and how the listeners, I'll put a link in the description in terms of the charity, but how the listeners can get involved in sponsoring you.
Yeah, sure. So basically, yeah, you're right. I ended up doing a year. And so when I got to 365 days, the local newspaper wanted to have a chat and everything. And then a couple of other sort of radio magazines and stuff sort of reached out to have a bit of a chat. And the one common question is, why are you doing it? Is there a bigger reason? A bigger reason? And then are you going to keep going after the 1 year? And I was like,
you couldn't even put it down to midlife crisis.
Yeah. So I started thinking about it, and I am a little bit blessed and privileged to be in a position where I do have the power of a microphone and being in a position on the media. I started thinking I probably should push this attention into something that's a little bit more important and meaningful than growing your Instagram account, right? So my daughter was born with a really rare genetic condition that was quite worrying for the first 4 years of her life, and thankfully she's passed all the medical hurdles and everything over the last 4 years, and she's pretty much in the clear. However, I think it's 1 in 20 kids are born with genetic conditions around the world. So the institute that I'm helping to raise for is a medical institute for those genetic conditions research in Australia. And they do a huge thing, Genes for Genes Day in Australia, and also lots of things to sort of help families through difficult times. So I'm trying to raise 5K for 5K, about 30% of the way through at the moment, and I'm just really pushing it when I get to those milestones. So day 500 I'll do a big push for it, day 750, then day 1000. But I don't want to be trying to get donations all the time, but on those big milestones, it's good to push it towards and push it in that direction.
I think that's fantastic, and a lot of these organisations do some cracking work in terms of their assistance, and they're woefully underfunded. So good on you. I think the having that connection also helps to motivate you and keep you motivated.
Well, that's it.
Through the harder days.
I was a little bit worried about this second year because, out of all those things that I've done, those year-long challenges, I have gone back to eating takeout. I have gone back to eating chocolate and lollies and soft drink, right? And so I didn't want to stop running. So it was nice to find an eternal and meaningful reason to keep going as well with my family. So every time I see my daughter, she always asks, "Oh, Dad, have you gone for a run today?" So it's a nice little thing that we've.
That's nice. Yeah, that's really nice.
About as well. Yeah.
So what's next in terms of? So you're obviously going to continue with the 5K a day for as long as you can.
Yeah.
What's you're planning to run a marathon? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I was thinking about doing one in Western Australia later this year, but it's on a beach, and I'm not sure I want my first marathon to be on a beach. So I've sort of highlighted the Gold Coast, which is a beautiful part in Australia, Queensland on the coast. It's a really, really flat course where most Australians go for their first marathon, or also if they want to go there to get their best record. So I thought that's probably a good one to sort of start with. So try to get a few mates together to all go do that and make a bit of a trip out of it in 2022. So and it's far away that if I commit to it now, people will forget about it. Or if I keep training, I'll be able to make it.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. It soon creep up on you though, as I found.
Yeah.
So I think I think you're a really inspiring character. We've had a couple of chats, and you're a really inspiring character. And I've known you through Instagram, and it's nice speaking to people who have gone through a journey, and the thing I'm learning more than anything through the work I'm doing on this podcast is everyone has a very, very similar kind of approach in terms of their fitness, and there is a very, very strong why. Why am I doing this? And it's you know, seeing the headline of you running 5K a day on Instagram without the background to that, it's very, very difficult to understand why you would do that, unless you're in your 40s and decided that midlife crisis is taken over.
Well, I mean, that's the great thing about social media. Hey, like we bash it as much as, like for the negativity of it. But at the same time, you're right. Like we met over social media on Instagram, and I would say like the running community on Instagram is amazing. Like there's so many happy, positive people, inspiring people out there that have done like some really incredible stuff. I was following a guy recently who was running across all of America, and just incredible to see the different kind of landscapes, the environment that he had to go through, the conditions as well. It was like snowing, rain, he experienced it all. And yeah, that's what, it's so inspiring to watch that kind of stuff. And then you think, oh, I'm definitely going for a run. He's out there running across Australia, and it's all relative, right? Like I've had lots of friends reach out to me and ask similar questions to what we've talked about, like why are you doing it, or where should I start running? And so it's been a really nice thing in this time going through COVID, where we've all been separated, to bring people together. And it's been really nice to sort of find that niche with people and the community online.
Yeah, I think the community was strong before COVID, but it's got stronger. I certainly have never experienced. Before I came into triathlon in 2017 and started my fitness journey, I wasn't connected on Instagram. I started using Instagram in 2017, and there are people that I engage with most days, most weeks, who just that check-in as to seeing how people are doing really helps a lot, especially when we're all going through a similar sort of thing in terms of our fitness. And there are always bad weeks and bad days where you just you don't feel like doing it, or you haven't done well. So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice thing to. Someone once said to me that they came to running and stayed for the community, because you start off that journey and you don't realize how many people are just willing to even offer advice. It's really fantastic.
It's such a solitary sport, right? Like that's why I love park runs. And now I've found a group of about 10 to 15 of us that do these long runs on a Sunday. It's so nice, because otherwise every day I'm doing it by myself, which is nice. It's refreshing and everything. But those park runs and those runs where you're doing it with people, and then you have a coffee afterwards, catch up, you have breakfast together. It's awesome.
It's nice. Yeah. I think park run is a fantastic concept.
I did not think I'd find that in running at all. I thought it was going to be a solitary thing, and it hasn't been at all, which has been great.
I think a good thing to do is, the thing I like about Instagram is that I record everything on Instagram, everything I do, because it is my journal of, and I look back to 3 years ago. Whenever I think I've had a bad day, I look back at kind of 3 years ago. I even found I started running in 2014 and then stopped. But I found some of my running pal, data of the runs I did, 5K runs I did then, and just looking at that compared to now is quite inspiring, because you realise how far you've come, and without having that record, you don't know.
No, well, let's just hope Zuckerberg never pulls the plug, right?
yeah.
All gone.
Yeah, and there's often occasions when Instagram just decides to block you for no reason.
Yeah,
that's quite stressful, losing 4 years worth of photos and memories without a way of actually trying to get it back, which is what I had earlier this year.
Oh no.
But there we go. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. As I say, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll also put your social media for people to connect to. I think what you're doing is really inspiring, Pablo, and it's been really pleasant talking to you over the number of times we've had a chat. It's been great, and I'm sure the listeners will find your story and really inspiring. If I'll put your social media details in, if they want to get in contact with you, I'm sure you'll offer your advice and tips.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And thanks so much for inviting us on the podcast, John. Really appreciate it. And keep on running.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.